have access to that. I'll definitely do that next week because we have a short week. So I'm going to try to get everything to you as soon as possible. Even though you'll have access to the participation question early, which is good. You can't post it the day before, but you can post it early. So starting on Monday, you'll have access to the question. So if you post even before 6 o'clock, that's fine. We still would love to have you here, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of leg up because this Thursday is a holiday, so we won't be here this Thursday for those of you that may not know. So we have a short week. And then next week is also, I guess, technically a short week in the sense that class is over on Thursday. So just wanted to remind you of that. We'll continue to remind you of that. But that's important for those of us that um, are needing to, catch up a little bit. There's a few of us that need to catch up a little bit. Please see me. You can email me afterwards if you need some support, a little bit more time. You need to turn something in. Just shoot me a quick email, and we can entertain that because I really want you to be able to get things turned in, especially the resume, your mock interviews. I know that there could be some backlog on that, depending upon how many career services people are at your campus and scheduling. So don't let that be a deterrent. Like you can still have time to get those things in. Just please just let me know. All right. Do we have any questions on the first 2 weeks before we get into it? We're at the midpoint. So your campuses may be reaching out to you. Go ahead, Brett. Okay. Maybe your campuses may be reaching out to you.
If we have the mock interview scheduled for like a 6:30, and I think Quillen wants us there a little early. So how does that work out with class? Just
Oh, no, I'm glad you brought
curious.
that up. I was just about to say, so as long as you do the live session question, remember you get attendance. So um, you can pop back on and just review the video and just get the live session question if you need to pop off. As long as you do it before 10 o'clock, your attendance still counts, right? That's another reason why, thank you for saying that, because that leads me into my next topic. These classes this week are going to go really, really fast and really short because of exactly what Brett had said. The evening class and the morning class too, but definitely in the evening time, a lot of people have mock interviews. I've been getting pinged with mock interview results. And so I'm not going to keep you in here because I know people have to leave. People may have to go into campus and they're not used to going into or don't have to go into campus for this class. So I'm trying to be as helpful as possible. This class may run till 6:30, but definitely in the next few days, we're going to be in and out, guys, because people are going to have to jump off, jump on, not come in, and that's totally fine, which is another reason why I want to get the pre-recorded sessions up, just so you guys can have access to it. All right? So if you can't make it because you have, a session, please, yeah, go to your session. We totally understand that. All right. So we are in chapter 11. Chapter 11 is, midpoint, sorry. So we're at the midpoint. So basically what that means is that your campuses are going to look at, see how you're doing. I don't know what your rules are at your campus. Everybody's at a different campus. Some campuses say if you don't have a C or better, you have to come to campus. So hopefully you have a C or better. Again, if you're struggling a little bit here or there, just reach out to me directly so we can get you going. If your campus can help you get caught up and you just need me to, open something up for you, that's fine. But I prefer you just to reach out to me if you don't need that support from your campus because it just wastes time because, your campus can't open anything, it can't do anything. They're just going to reach out to me and you could have just done that directly. And, so try not to like waste time with that unless you can't get a hold of me, then yeah, sure, have someone get a hold of me. But it's just quicker and easier if I do it. Like I hate to, I work in the daytime and I work in the evening time, and so if somebody's reaching out to me in between, I may not be at my desk. I may not be even working during because I have a time off in between the two sessions. So it's easier if you catch me when we're we're on live, or you can text me. Most of you should have my phone number. If you don't, you can always grab it from the first week's announcement, or you can just let me know. And it's also in my email. So all right. So again, we want to finish strong. We're at the midpoint. All the grades are done. So if you have any questions about your grades, you can just click on grades and there you go. All right. Any questions on that? All right. So chapter 11 is also still talking about interviewing. There's probably only one thing here you probably have never heard of, you know, along with, a few other things we talked about last week, because most of us have interviewed, numerous times. So we have, a couple of tricks up our sleeve. But you may not have ever heard of subjective elements. Anybody ever heard of that before? It's really just things that can be biased against you. And, in an interviewing process, we try to get you to eliminate some of those, elements that are typically biased. What you wear, what you smell like. I know you're like, smell like. Yes, people can be biased about how you smell. Y'all probably got a little bias in you too. you know, what you smell like affects you, right? Anybody agree with that? Um, you know, Different things that may, distract the. Listen, they told me I have a nose like a barracuda. I have a horrible. I'm very sensitive to smell, so I know how you feel. But anyway, you don't want any of that bias, especially, when you're meeting someone for the first time. We all know first impression is a lasting impression. You may not remember a lot about someone you worked with, someone maybe you've interviewed with, but you remember that first meeting. There's very few instances where you don't remember the first meeting with someone. Is that not true? Like, even if you don't remember a lot, for some reason, that first impression you remember, it stands out. Well, you definitely don't want that type of drama when you are interviewing. It is your first impression, so you don't want them to have a negative first impression, right? Regardless of whether it was intended or not, regardless of whether, you know, um, it's something that we would be like, really, they had a problem with my nail color, like whatever it is. You don't want people to remember you for any type of bias. That's why if you ever heard people always say to you, oh, make sure you wear something muted like a gray or a brown or a black or whatever, that's because we don't want to have any type of weird thing stand out. Why? What do you want people to focus on? You want people to focus on your face. And some of you may say, what? Yes, you want people looking in your eyes, listening to the words coming out of your mouth, right? That's the only thing you want them focused on. You don't want them staring at your tattoos, how many rings are in your nose or your ear. I know some of you may say, well, I would never go to an interview like that. Well, people do. um, you don't want them to be distracted by, loud smelling perfume or cologne. Maybe they have an allergy. Like, you don't want that drama, right? So you just want them looking at your face. That's why they even tell, if you have long hair, just pull it back for the day so they can focus on your face, so they can listen to the words coming out of your mouth. Like I said before, I hate to call it a competition, guys, but guess what? You have somebody coming in right before you or right after you, and they're trying to make the same impression that you're making. So you don't have time to have any type of bias held against you. Let me ask you, be honest. Have you ever judged someone based upon something other than what they've said? Has anyone, tell the truth, has anyone ever judged someone by their appearance? Oh, what? Who's
Man,
just
here we
coming?
go again. Don't worry, I'm gonna cut it off right now. I ain't looking at you.
No, we're not on. We
You're
can.
not
I
on.
mean, we're not on our video, but you're welcome to be on video. We'd love to have you. But
I want to see who
like,
my teacher is.
oh, well, everybody already saw me, so you should have came on the first week. My hair is pulled up now, so it's too late. Maybe tomorrow when I brush my hair, I'll. But no, just kidding. But what was
Call
I
him.
saying? You
I
know,
call him.
we all judge, right? That's what we do. And so you want them to have a great first impression. So those subjective elements that are in chapter 11, they're just telling you to just, if you can, try to reduce any of that stuff so they don't have a bias. Like, it's really good if you have some really cool tattoos. Give me a thumbs up if you have tattoos. But the problem is, you don't
I
want
don't know
the,
how to do thumbs up.
okay, okay. Let me put you on mute, Louis. We don't want to hear your in case you have something private going on. Um, yeah. So, do you want someone not remembering anything you said outside of, yeah, they really have some cool tattoos, So, which of the three candidates did you like? Well, I liked Sarah and I liked Tom, and there was this one guy with these really cool tattoos, but they can't remember anything else you talked about because you talked 15 minutes about your tattoos. Nobody has time for that drama, right? This is a competition. So, we don't tell you just to reduce that bias just because you don't want them to talk about your tattoos, but you don't want that to be the only thing that they remember, right? It's not always a negative thing. It's just, what do you want them to remember? And you want them to remember the words that are coming out of your mouth. So that's what the bias thing is all about, whether it's positive or negative. You just want them remembering the words coming out of your mouth. Is that fair? You guys understand that? So just want to make sure you don't think that, oh, they're going to judge me because of whatever. I mean, some may. Now, y'all know how people are. But what we're talking about is really just giving yourself the competitive advantage and just reducing any type of bias. Makes sense? Some people wear rings and jewelry. You don't want to go in there flashing lights and people blinding people out with all your bling and all that. So just try to reduce that. Whatever, you normally do, just try to take it down a notch if it's a little much, right? Also, please note, from the time that you step on their campus, from the time that you drive into the parking lot, you're at the interview. You could be bumping into the CEO, the manager, somebody that's going to interview you. You don't know if that person was off site and so they're running into the campus because they're interviewing with you, right? So they're going to meet you at the corporate office, and here you are, you pulled up next to this dude, and maybe you have something playing on your radio, or maybe something that you probably wouldn't want the person to know. It's all a bias, right? You don't know who's peeking out the window. On the second floor, people do that. I'm telling you everything that has been done before, right? You don't know who that reception person is and what the relationship they may have. So from the moment that you step out of your car, you're at the interview until the time that you step back into your car and drive off that campus. Don't let your guard down. Please, please, and thank you. Do not let your guard down. That is my advice to you. Not trying to make it sound like it's so, intense, but you just don't want that drama. Is it not true? You don't want that drama. You don't want any type of bias, so because people do judge. Like I said, I don't know if I told you guys this story, but I've interviewed a lot of people before. I used to be associate dean of a campus, and people judge. I had this one guy. Oh my goodness, I felt so sorry for him. He was a professor, and he actually taught at UCF. And for whatever reason, and this wasn't at this college, it was at a different college, he got lost. So this is Florida heat. Y'all is what 100. I know it's like 99 degrees where I am. And dude, by the time he got to the campus, y'all know what I'm about to say. He was drenched. He was drenched. You can't recover from that. Man, we were getting him paper towels, we were getting him water. And if you've ever, come from like the heat, we all are Floridians, so most of us understand that. And you come into an area that's really cold, like I don't know why it takes a minute, right? So sweat was everywhere. Dude was drenched. And that's all people talked about. Now, I felt sorry for the guy because I really needed that English professor position filled. I wanted this guy, but the two people that were above me, that's all they could talk about was, the way he looked and how he was disheveled and how he got lost. I felt sorry for the guy. But what should he have done? He probably should have done a reconnaissance, is what we call it in the military. You should have known where you were going before you got there. So I felt sorry for him, but then I'm like, dude, come on. Like you should know, Google it or something. So like you don't want that drama. And he actually lost the job because of that. I was like, what? He was a great candidate. I was able to get over it, but they weren't, right? So I interviewed someone at another company to be a chief financial officer. And I loved it. She was an ex-military people a person too. I don't know if I forget how many military people are here, but any military people, because you'll understand what I'm about to say. Give me a thumbs up if you're military, you know military people. All right, Brett. She was so stoic, so matter of fact, so to the point, right? Now I was in heaven. I'm like, yeah, this is my type of person, right? That's what I like. We don't like all the, all the bells and whistles. We want you to get straight to the point, do the job, whatever. My boss was scared to death of her. She was scared to death of her. I'm like, man, I love her. But she was like, "Oh, I don't know. She just seems a bit." I already knew what she was about to say. I said, "She seems inflexible to you, right?" Yeah, she seems inflexible. I'm like, "No, man, that's good. That's good training right there. That means she's gonna do her job." She couldn't understand. She couldn't see past it, you know. And I was almost like trying to soften her up a little bit because I felt I saw how my boss was like, "No." And I was really rooting for her, but she just came across too rigid, too, she couldn't see herself. And so, you don't want that drama either, obviously like read the room or something. Like, I know as ex-military people, we love to, be that way, because for us that's how we define professionalism, but it read very wrong, in the meeting. So you just want to be mindful of how you are presenting yourself at a meeting and try to reduce some of that bias. In her case, she was way too rigid. In the other dude's case, he was just late and sweaty, which is horrible, right? But again, you don't want that drama. Obviously, if it's a virtual interview, we talked about this last week a little bit too. If you have a personality that is a bit, let's say, how shall we say, quiet, or maybe you've been told that you have a facial expression that doesn't change, you're going to need to up your energy a little bit over virtual. Remember, virtually you can come across flat, and so make sure that if you do have to have a virtual interview, probably not your first interview, but maybe your second, maybe it could be your first if you have to do a screening interview. Just be a little bit more expressive in your face, guys. Be a little bit more expressive in your face. I almost lost the job behind that, and I think I may have told you guys I personally prefer in face. I do have a lot of personality in my voice, but I still don't do well. Phone interviews I rarely get. I'm be honest with you. Virtual, okay, I can get it, but a lot of times, when it's virtual, I tend to tense up a little bit because I can't read your energy that well, and I'm kind of taking cues from the interviewer, and I can fall flat, right? And so I fell flat on an interview before, and I almost didn't get the job. Matter of fact, it was the second interview. I had interviewed in person with the first boss. Person loved me to death, but then the CEO, that no, actually, the executive director, he wanted to meet with me, and he was a Marine. Anybody, yeah, if you know what Marines are like, you know what I'm talking about. And this wasn't even a military job. This was just a civilian job, but military people are all over the place, right? And he was a Marine, and I was like, oh man, and he was like kind of giving it to me too. And dude, he did not like me because I'm giving him the energy he's giving me in terms of being very militant, not rude militant, but just very yes sir, what do you need, very matter of fact. And he couldn't get a read from me because my face was just a little bit stoic. And so he was like, "You sure you want this girl?" Now, fast forward, we're the best of friends. We were the best of friends. We're cool because most military people are gonna have a lot in common. But that interview fell flat. I was shocked I got the job. She actually had to fight for me. She was like, "No, no, I really want her." So I'm just telling you, you got to be careful with these virtual interviews. To that point, your second interview, my friends, treat it like the first. Like I said, my first interview, I nailed it. And I actually nailed it because she had a family emergency, which is something else. If you're meeting with someone, especially if you're meeting in the morning or the afternoon, if you have a job, my suggestion to you would be to take the day off or to take the half of the day off because you don't want to run in and out of an interview. You never know what could happen. What if they ask you to stay to do some type of demonstration or training, or they like you so much and they want you to meet the next guy, or they want to show you around the campus and your 1 hour interview turns into 2 hours or 3 hours? Like, you don't want to miss that opportunity. That's what happened to me at a company. I came, the person had an emergency. She left. And they were like, "Well, can you stay and wait for her?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess. Thank goodness I had taken a day off." And she came back. Turns out she had a family emergency. And the fact that I stayed impressed her. So she was really rooting for me. So when her boss met me, he was like, "I don't know about this one." She was like, "No, I got to have her." Right. So that also worked in my favor. But that second interview, you have to treat it like the first because you don't know who the person is. The person can be the complete opposite of your first interviewer. Like, how does that go? Like, you're thinking, because a lot of times if you have a really great first interview, then you're thinking you're going to nail the second interview, and the personality or the structure is completely different. So, just so you know, hopefully you don't have to have a second interview, but if you do, treat it like the first. And then lastly, what happens after the interview? Well, this is what we're going to be doing this week. You are going to interview. After the interview, what are you going to do? You're going to do a follow-up thank you message actually to your career services person, because we're going to have you practice that. And then if it's the real thing, you're gonna manage your emotions, guys. Just because you got an interview, that doesn't mean you have the job. Anybody ever purchased a home before knows what that's like. Like, you can like a lot of homes. You may have to kiss a lot of frogs until you get the right one. So don't get too excited until they give you that offer letter. Um, you don't have the job. So of course, what are you gonna do? You're gonna continue with your job search, right? You may not even like the job that you got. So don't hang all your eggs in one basket until you know you like the job. Now I'm going to say something that's even a little bit more unconventional. Who's ever left a job in the first 90 days? Anybody ever left a job in the first 90 days? Walked in, walked out. Thank you very much. I thought y'all were going to leave me out here by myself. Listen, or maybe you know someone that has done that. Let me tell you something that was so funny, and I couldn't even get mad at dude because he was going to be a coworker of mine, and we really needed this position filled. But the guy came to the job, and it was at a university. It wasn't this one, and they told him what the job was. I think he was there for an hour. Dude left the keys and the little name tag they gave him on his office. And he didn't even tell us he was leaving. He just got in his car and left. And then sent them email saying he's out of here. Turns out what had happened was he had continued to interview, right? And so sometimes one job will respond to you quicker than the other. And I guess the job he really wanted hadn't reached out to him, or maybe he had weighed his pros and cons and had decided to take our job. Well, once they told him what the job was and he went around and he met everybody. Now, I think he didn't really like the executive director, the one that I got cool with afterwards, because he was a very militant person. Dude was like, "No, man, I could do better with the other job," and he just walked out. Now, I'm not, condoning that in any manner. Now, of course, I thought it was funny because I was like, "That's so mean." Like, I don't pull punches at all. I'm like, "You show me the money or show me the door." That's how I've been with my career. Because I'm gonna give you 1,000%. Just give me my money. Let me go home. But it's your career. So this is not just a job. This ain't you're not going to a job at Target, or this is your career. This is the beginning of your career. You have to take every job that you sign up for seriously. Why is that? Well, hopefully you understand now that everything that you do should be a part of your career plan, right? We're not just out here just trying to make some money. We're trying to get to our career, right? So some of you are trying to start your own business. Some of you are trying to, you know, um, be a master electrician or maybe a journeyman or whatever it is you're trying to do. I've even read some people are trying to um, become a veterinarian if you're in the VA, so you don't really have time to play. And if you're trying to start your own business and you decided that you were going to work at this small company and they said they do a lot of training and maybe they were going to help you get to the next level, and then you get there and they're like, man, that was last year. That was under that last CEO. We ain't got no training program. You're like, oh, so y'all played me. The reason why I took the less pay is because of your training program. Anybody ever been lied to at a company before? Give me a quick thumbs up if anybody ever lied to you, or right when you're taking the job, something happened. Go ahead, Kyle. Okay, Kyle. Right? That's not. Listen, like I said before, when you have just a regular job, that's, oh my God, look at all these thumbs. That's concerning. That is very concerning. But when you had a career, you don't have time to play. Like one time, I took a job at my career job, and they told me it was remote. Now some people may, how this drama. Now, okay, I'm about to say something bad and say these older people, because I'm a tech person and I didn't grow up on technology, but it was becoming a big thing when I got my first job. So I understand technology. I have a background in it. I don't see anything wrong with working remotely, to suggest people don't work because they work remotely. I'm working now. Am I not working? This ain't AI. I'm working. Um, and because of my family dynamic, I work remote is what I set out to do. I've been working for 30 years. I'm a consultant and I've earned the right to do what I want to do. You hear? And I took this job and they told me it was remote. And what happened? Within the first week, they're talking about I have to go to Tampa. Okay, I live in Orlando, but Tampa and stay overnight. And I'm a divorced mother with a child with special needs. So you already know that was a no go, right? Like I was already like, where's the exit, right? I was already mad. I was really really upset because I had left a job for that job. Can you imagine? And then after I got past that initial, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to take my kid. Thank God I have family. Da, da, da. Guess what? The next couple of months, they're like, okay, you're gonna have to stay overnight again somewhere else. So you know what I did, right? And they wanted me to come into the office. So it was completely messy. And it was like, okay, what's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal if you've changed your complete family dynamic. You know what I'm saying? My kid goes to a special school. I got to be there at certain times. Like, no bueno, right? Like you told me it was one thing, I get there is something else. And their tuition program was a lie. Y'all know what I did? So I packed up their laptop and their keys and I left it at the front desk. I ain't got time for that. And it was like, where's Cynthia? I'm like, home. Like I said, the job's supposed to be home. That's where I am. Go find somebody else to play with. Like, I just don't have time for it because it can affect my career. I would have had to change everything, my family dynamic, the money I had already, taken a reduction. So I'm gonna take a reduction and some BS and then I got to travel. You're out of your mind. So I just don't play the radio with that. And I had already kept my opportunities open. So I already had something else. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to move on to part B. And why is that important? Because it wasn't just the inconvenience of it, but it would have completely shifted what I was trying to do for my career. And so that's when it really becomes a big issue. If they're trying to make you do something that's not in alignment with your career plan, but as the saying goes, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. The whole point of you having a career plan is so that you can follow it. How are you going to get somewhere if you don't? How are you going to get directions? Okay, some of y'all, I'm afraid to say this, but how many of you guys don't follow directions? But for those of us that like to follow directions, how are you going to get somewhere if you don't follow the directions, right? So if you're making, okay, so if you make plans for your future, go ahead, Ralston, and you don't follow them, then good luck to you. I mean, you're going to end up somewhere, but it probably is not going to be where you meant to be. Does that make sense? And that's why you have to follow your career plan, people. I know, we all would love to say we're going to find this job and we're going to be at this job for 5 years or 10 years. Well, you don't know that because that job that person could retire and goes, we decide to sell the business, or I'm going to, close the business down, or we're going to move to a different state. And here you are thinking that this is going to be the company you're going to be at for life. Don't ever hang your career on a position. I'm telling you now, you never win that way. You win by having a plan. If your plan was to be at this company for 2 years because they have a great training program and you're going to learn that system, maybe they ask you to give them a year back, you give them that year, but then your plan is to get promoted and they don't have any promotions. What do you need to do? You need to go somewhere else. Don't just sit there, right? It's very difficult to get to your plan, to your goal, if you let somebody else drive the ship. Is that not true? I know I can't be the only one with that experience, right? So you have to drive the ship, my friends. Y'all, we're all adults. And I'm just telling you the truth. Don't ever let somebody else drive your ship because you're going to end up in the middle of the sea somewhere. How did I get here? Because you let somebody else drive. All right. So, what do we want you guys to do this week after your mock interview, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow and Wednesday, so don't worry about it today. You are going to be doing a thank you letters. We're going to tell you how to write it, and of course, we're going to demystify everything in this class. So we're going to demystify how you write a thank you. Most of you guys know how to do it. And you're also going to be doing a debrief on that mock interview. This mock interview, quite like the mock interview has 4 steps, guys. So it's so important that you do it. Remember, in week 1, it was, did you make an appointment? In week 3, you're doing the mock interview. It's a grade for that. You're also doing a thank you letter. It's a grade for that. You're doing a debrief. It's a grade for that. And the report that they give me that you went, it's a grade for that. That's a lot of grades just for the mock interview, right? So let's make sure we don't miss any steps on that. All right? All right, my friends, here's your question for today. Oh, sorry, I thought we were there. This last thing is just talking about, and I already mentioned this. Obviously, when you get an offer letter, you have to evaluate it. We talked about last week about negotiating your salary, but I did give a caveat. Now, in your first job, maybe the negotiation process may or may not be there. But again, once you move up, you should know your industry better than anything, because once you get into an industry, it shrinks your job pool, right? If you're a doctor, there's only so many doctor roles. If you're an accountant, there's only so many accounting roles. So if you're in the welding industry, the HVAC industry, the electrical, know your industry, right? So you should know what a person with 5-year experience in Central Florida makes. That's something you need to learn, or you will learn, right? So as you go throughout your career, you have 5 years in the game, you should already know how much you're supposed to make, right? Especially if you have certain types of experience or certifications. So that's how you negotiate, because if you got 5 years in the game and you know it's supposed to be 60 or 70,000, and somebody's talking about 55, like that's not even, you shouldn't even take them serious, because if you got to know what your industry demands, right, and what you can demand in your industry in your specific region, because obviously what HVAC person in Florida makes may be very different in Alaska for obvious reasons, or it still could be different in California, right? I'm sure an HVAC person in California is probably making double what we're making down here in Florida. So it's so important that you understand your industry, and there's actually research you can do on that. Salary research. So you'll know if you don't know what your position commands, you can actually Google that. And that's how you start that negotiation process. So that is what they were talking about there. All right. So here's your participation question. We talked about bias a little bit and what you should and shouldn't wear, but many of you know that even in your respective industries, there's certain things you should wear. Any VA people here tonight? Any VA people here? Veteran assistants, not VA. All right. What are you supposed to wear at your interview? Did they tell you? One of my VA people. What are you supposed to wear?
My teacher just told me to wear my scrubs.
Now let me tell you something about that. I'm glad you said that, because my morning class, she said she was told, one of the other students, to not wear her scrubs. Now, which is it? Do they wear the scrubs to wear or to not to wear? That is the question. How do you think you reconcile that? How you think that could be reconciled? They fire the instructor. No, just kidding. Well, it's going to depend on what. Who has the answer? We talked about it last week. What do you think she should do? How is she going to know whether to wear scrubs or not to wear scrubs? Do I wear my high heels or do I wear my scrubs? I need to know. Well, first of all, who should tell her what to wear? Come on, y'all. It's not a trick question. Who should tell her what to wear?
The person that you
Come on. Say it again. The person that what?
That's how you go. Tell you.
That's it. Whoever set up the interview, that screener, that HR person, right? And she's gonna ask, is this a working interview? Should I come wearing my scrubs or should I come not wearing my scrubs? Now let me say something to you guys. In your mock interview, find out what you're supposed to wear. That's the first thing. They're going to be testing you. Find out what you're supposed to wear, especially if you're in the VA program. Because one career services person might say wear scrubs. Somebody else is going to say don't wear scrubs. I'm telling you right now because I've had career services say, and I can't believe they came in their scrubs. And then I had career services person say, I want you to wear scrubs. Isn't that confusing? But it depends on what campus you're at. So there you go. But in the real world, it really just depends because a lot of times they do want you to do a working interview in the VA program. They want to see how you are with the animals. They want to see how you interact. And it also depends on where you're going. You're going to a hospital, you're going to a clinic, you're going to a rescue center. It just depends. So that makes sense. The welders, any welders here? What are you supposed to wear? You guys may have been told, some of you may say, nobody told me anything yet. But they may say, hey, make sure you wear steel-toed boots. Make sure you wear some pants that you don't mind getting a little dirty. We're going to walk you through a construction site, but you're not going to know if you don't ask, right? So for you guys, and maybe for HVAC too, but I definitely know the welders sometimes are told, to wear certain things for obvious reasons, a little dangerous, right? You may get told to wear certain things. So what you wear really depends upon, the type of interview and the type of job. So what I want to know for you in your participation question today is I want you to show me, which you can take a picture of it. You can take a picture of yourself. Some people take a picture on hangers. I don't care what you do. Or you can describe what you would wear to an interview. Please don't say clothes. What are you supposed to wear? We're gonna start with clothes. We want to know what type of clothes. All right. Where are you supposed to wear to your interview? And it could change depending upon what type of company you're in, right? Even for me, how I would dress at a corporate job would be what we consider very formal. Chapter 11 talks about that, from extremely formal to business attire, business casual, casual, or informal. Yes, there's all those different categories. So if ever someone says to you, dress business casual, and you're like, what the heck is business casual? Well, now you can read about it in chapter 11. All right. So a teaching job, I would do business casual. A corporate job, like a bank or investment house I worked at, it was definitely formal, almost prom formal. Yeah, it's formal, right? But obviously, if it's something a little bit more casual, it's business casual. So where you work definitely depends on how you're supposed to dress. Just so you know that. So that's about. All right. Lastly, guys, you are doing your second informational interview. You'll be doing your second informational interview. Go ahead, Francisco. Oh, okay. You'll be doing your second informational interview. And this interview, guys, is a little bit different from the first one. The first one, we wanted you to find someone in your industry, right? Because obviously, if you want to become a master electrician, we want you to talk to someone that understands at least what a master electrician is. And we wanted you to get their feedback. Hey, that's why we wanted you to have your little pitch ready. My long-term goal is to become a master electrician and start my own business. I wanted to get your feedback on that, right? So that's how we wanted you to kind of run with that first interview. This informational interview, don't confuse these with mock interviews, guys. This informational interview is just someone in leadership. It does not have to be in your industry. It could be the same person if they don't mind you talking to them twice. But this time around, you want to focus on leadership questions, right? And you can use that same data bank that we gave you. But if I was talking to someone, maybe it's the same person, somebody different, anybody in leadership, again, I want to become a master electrician and own my own business, I may focus more so on the owning my own business questions. So hey, I know you've been in leadership for quite some time. I want to, start my own business. What advice do you have for me about running my own business or maybe managing others? That's something I may want to know. If this person's in leadership, they're probably going to have a lot of, advice to give you on managing people, dealing with HR, maybe dealing with conflict resolution. They probably have a lot to tell you about managing budgets and maybe working with sales and the things that you want to consider with outside, suppliers. Like there's so much that, leaders do that you don't really get to see unless you're in that position. So you want to focus on that. And they don't have to be in your industry because all leaders have to deal with budgets and outside sources and people management. So all of that can cross over. That's that soft skills, employability skills from your midterm, right? So all those skills cross over. So they can help you, in determining, hey, is this for me? I used to run an entrepreneurship seminar, and it was a 7-week course, actually, not just a seminar. And I had a lot of people come in and they wanted to start their own business. And by the time they were done with my 7-week program, 50% of them said, no, I'm not starting my own business, because I actually had someone from the IRS come and talk to them, had an HR director come talk to them. They had to do a business plan. We had a marketing person talk to them. And by the time they got all that information and they did that little boot camp, they were like, nah, I'm good. So, running your own business is very different from working through somebody else's. So it's important for you to talk to people to actually figure out, if, what you're trying to do makes sense for you. And you won't know that unless you start to engage with others. All right. So for today, what are you doing? We just want the name of who you're going to talk to. If it's the same person, just give me the name. If it's someone different, just give me a name. And that's all you need to do for this assignment tonight. Any questions on that? All right. So if no questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.